Y'all, today we need to talk about something that people really care about. The topic of today, a feature that's not in the game yet, but people really want to see, and something that I really think could work in this game, a pet reroll feature. Now, if y'all don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a pet reroll, I'm sure this experience that I'm about to talk about, we've all been there. Imagine you're making a pet. You have a vision for the pet. You have an epic pet that hasn't failed yet. You're going to the final stage, mega for that 5th talent, and then suddenly it fails, right? This pet right here, Twitchy Muffin, is a great example, a tragic example, some might say, of what I'm talking about. I clearly made this pet wanting double resist, double damage and armor breaker, and at mega, when I trained it after tons of snacks, tons of energy, tons of effort, instead of getting the 10 resists that I was going for, I got Pipple Plenty, a talent that gives a stat that I don't care about at max level because I already have 100% pip chance. What a lot of people want in this position is a chance, even with crowns, to re-roll the fail talent that they got so they can have a random chance at getting another talent, right? Whenever you make a mega pet, you still have 5 other talents that the pet didn't get. People want a way to re-roll so that they could have a chance of deleting a fail talent and having a chance at getting the talent that they were actually going for. Now, not only have people gone out of their way to, like, you know, describe what they want, they've also, like, created mock-ups of how this could actually be added into the game. This one person named Toadling in the Wizard101 Discord made this epic visual called the Enchanted Enchilada, which I'm gonna assume is a snack that you could feed a pet so you could literally replace one of its talents randomly. And I'm gonna assume this would either be something that you could either only get very rarely, if ever, from like random bosses at the very end of the game or raids or something. It could maybe craftable, right? We've seen things that are pretty hard to get, but they're craftable, and normally the way to get a lot of these reagents is to lend a lot of pets and get hatch peppers, which is the reagent that you get when you lend a bunch of pets. But I think realistically, if Wiz were ever to actually add a pet reroll feature, they would have to do it with crowns, simply because pet training is such a big part of their monetization model, right? There's a lot of people that argue that a pet reroll feature would never make it into the crown shop, even in the form of an elixir, because right now Wiz has a real incentive for you to train a pet, fail, hatch another pet, and fail more. And that sounds really sad, but like, why is that? You might be wondering, because you spend 400 crowns every time you need to do a hatching timer reset, which you need every single time you rehatch in a small period of time, right? You can only hatch once a day without these. You're gonna spend 250 crowns per energy elixir that you have to use. Every time you fail in training a pet, you're using energy that you're gonna have to refill. If you wanna not wait naturally for it to refill, you're gonna spend crowns on that. Let's say you hatch a lot of pets and you run out of gold to hatch the eggs. You're gonna spend 150 crowns to hatch every single pet that you hatch, and you are only gonna hatch more pets if you fail the pet that you were initially going for, right? There are some pessimists that argue that a pet reroll feature could never exist because all of these things are very easy to monetize, and Wiz doesn't want to lose money by giving a feature that's, even if it is for crowns. Now, here's why I think that argument, though, really doesn't hold up. A pet reroll feature wouldn't even guarantee that the pet doesn't fail, right? All it would do is, there are 5 other talents that your pet didn't get on the way to mega. You have a 1/5 or however much chance of getting one of the remaining talents with crowns. I feel like you could make a pet reroll elixir like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 crowns. That is the price of multiple Peros, multiple energy elixirs, and the once in a blue moon when that actually works in your favor, you gain something for it. I think that's a way that they should do it, right? If they add something like a pet reroll, make it something that you might be able to craft, maybe make it a drop very rarely, add it to the crown shop, and at the end of the day, it could be marked up so that you could still have profit on Wiz's side, and maybe just a little less frustration every now and then on the player's side. Now, obviously, because this idea has been around for so long and people have been asking for it, the devs have had a chance to respond, and they always respond with something kind of sarcastic, which I don't like. There's a lot of screenshots like this, so this isn't like a call out. I think they're, you know, they're just being like sarcastic, which is fine. But basically, every time someone says, oh, there should be a reroll feature, they say, we've already had a reroll feature, and they're always referring to just hatching another pet. And here's the thing. Yes, hatching another pet is a way to reroll your talents if you think about it. The reason why people don't like that comment, don't like that response, is because of the root cause of the issue, which is way too much RNG when it comes to pets. If y'all don't know, there's actually a way that pets work, and it's already RNG before you even start training it. And it's this thing called a wow factor. Now, there's a whole big database on wow factors, but basically, right, if it's a really good pet, it'll tend to have a higher wow factor which means you're less likely to get that pet body back when you're hatching with it. Now, I'm not talking about exclusive pets like, you know, like the Noddy Dragon or something where you actually need the pet body to get it back. I'm talking about rare pets that you're very rarely going to get back because they have a really, really high wow factor. The fact that there's RNG to even get the pet body that you want, and then there's all this RNG about getting the talents, and most of this involves really, really heavily using resources like Mega Snacks that are very, very hard to replace, right? For you to have a bunch of Mega Snacks like this, you're gonna have to have tons of gardens, tons of wizards with a lot of these gardens, right? Most people that have snacks like this, either they're spending a lot of crowns to buy a bunch of seeds or a ton of time getting all the seeds to make these big gardens that give them Mega Snacks, right? To have a system where you have that much time, that much RNG before you even start getting the talents, and then you still fail, that's why people are frustrated. I think that's a pretty obvious fact on paper, but I do think whenever they say we already have a pet reroll feature, they're not really responding to the root cause of the issue, which is that pets are too unpredictable to feel rewarding at times. Now, let's say a tragedy like this cannot be fixed with a pet reroll elixir because that is simply not on the table. What I would love to see is still a quality of life update around pet training that goes a little bit further than what we have right now. I feel like certain tools that, again, they could still monetize this. They could always make it like, you know, a pet talent clarity elixir or something. Maybe a feature that tells you somewhat between a few talents what your pet's more likely to get. That would be a cool feature, right? Maybe if you're more likely to get the talents that you're going for, you're more likely to train that. If not, maybe you're more likely to keep it as a base, right? As in you have some talents, you're gonna hatch it later. Wouldn't it be cool when a pet's like teen or something to know that there's 4 or 5 talents that it's more likely to get? Maybe like it cannot be highlighted or something based on the talents that you hatched with. A feature like that would be very, very cool. Another feature that a lot of people don't know about, but it is a big game changer. It's something that I literally use in my die equals delete, which is a limited resource playthrough. It's the idea of low pedigree pets. It's extremely, extremely hard to sort by pedigree and get to lower pedigree pets. And why are low pedigree pets so important? Because these crazy costs in the kiosk, 100,000 plus, you can actually get things even at Mega to go down to 45k if you're hatching with a pet with low pedigree. These are normally based on low pedigree, as in like derby talents, as in you don't have a lot of epic talents like this. The reason, for example, this hatch is so expensive is because all of these derby talents are epic. They're maxed out. They're insane. A way to sort it out so that you can actually get lower pedigree pets because they actually lower the pet hatch cost, that would be a cool feature. Something that they don't even have to, like, you know, add an elixir for. They don't have to add a snack for. Just make it so that the sorting, so you could actually start with low pedigree, is a thing in the kiosk. So you could actually start with your lower hatches instead of having to scroll hundreds and hundreds of pets from high pedigree to low pedigree to find the pet that you want. Another feature I would love is an update to the pet tome. This is another thing that I just don't get why they do this. They went through all this effort of making a pet tome. If y'all don't know, this is actually like a thing that you could like access in your pet page. But this actually tells you every single pet and like the school and the snacks and the stuff that it likes and whether it's a crown's pet. But it doesn't give you the most important info, in my opinion, which is that wow factor that we were talking about. Clearly, this is something that the players have found out themselves. If the players have gone out of their way to make a database on this type of stuff, why not add it into the game? Maybe give us a little bit of clarity on why when we hatch with a pet over and over again, we just don't get that pet back, right? This is a great feature that doesn't give you the most important info, which is, are you gonna get this pet back when you hatch with it? That is something that if there's a scale that it operates on, which there is, that should be available to the player. That is not something that's there. I think clarity on what talents you're about to get, clarity on how rare your pet body is, and also clarity on how to access cheaper pets in the kiosk are all things that Wiz could do, especially if they're not interested in a pet reroll feature. However, in my opinion, a pet reroll feature is easily one of the most no-brainer ideas that they could do. They would make money on it. There are people that are willing to pay for it. It could actually make what is very demoralizing, which is failing at Mega, something that you could actually have a chance at preventing. I don't see why Wiz doesn't jump at that opportunity. They have a lot of the tools in place to do that already, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on a pet reroll feature and also just other ways y'all would improve pet training, especially based on y'all's frustrations. I feel like we're the community. We should be able to voice our concerns on this, and it's easily one of the most frustrating things in the game. A big barrier of entry for a lot of big setups that people want to make. I think pet training should be more fun than it is, not as annoying as it is, and I think there's a lot that Wiz could do about it, and that's really the takeaway from this video. So share your ideas in the comments. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts thoughts, y'all. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Leave a sub if you're new. And as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah.